What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Mission Z Empowering Change podcast. Brought to you by our sponsors, Long Island Prevention and Resilience Enrichment Program for drug abuse prevention and mental health awareness. Check out all of our programs and find out how our 3 pillars of action will help the students, parents, and professionals in your community face down the ongoing drug overdose and mental health crisis ravaging our communities by going to www.longislandprep.org and our Prep Academy for educator professional development and parent workshops. Our new digital courses delve into the ongoing issues our kids face today, including mental health awareness and drug abuse prevention strategies for teachers in the classroom and parents at home. Teachers can earn credits, or parents can simply take a course to learn how to tackle these issues head on and help their kids along the way. Learn more by going to www.theprepacademy.org today. And Pioneer Sports, who want you to stop doing it yourself. They help schools, camps, and municipalities start, run, and grow a successful sports program. You can check them out at playpioneersports.com. I'm Paul Vecchione. It's great to be here with you as we bring our conversation to you and discuss the issues that Generation Z, our children, face today. The Mission Z podcast is here to bring people out there who are dedicated to making a difference here with us to talk about what they're doing and how their work is impacting our world, how they are making a difference to help others around them, and of course, how a call to action can empower change, and that's what we're here to do. Today's podcast is also brought to you by DDS for Vets, who is bridging the gap that veterans face with services that they are entitled to. Just go to www.ddsforvets.org for more information, and I'm really excited to bring on today's guest. He is Kip Ioane, founder and lead facilitator for Teams of Men, which exists to help create locker rooms, middle school through college, of boys and men versed in escaping the man box, unlearning harmful stereotypes about manhood, and engaged in learning about their authentic selves and striving to be allies in the fight against oppression and gender violence. I am really fascinated by this topic, so let's bring Kip on. How are you today, sir?
Man, Paul, thank you for having me, man. I know we've had a struggle getting together, but I'm glad we did, and now away we go. But it's a pleasure and an honor to be on your platform.
Thank you so much, and it is a pleasure and an honor to have you, sir. So listen, let's talk about it. Tell us about your organization. Tell us about your background and how you got to create such an interesting company here.
Yes, thank you. It's really an origin point of an aha moment that was keeping me up at night as an NCAA men's basketball coach. So, long story short, I grew up in Billings, Montana, somehow went from the snow in Montana to the rain in Oregon as a college basketball player. I think I'd still take the rain, by the way. I don't have any temperature control left in me. But then, I've been versed in the athletic world, right? My father was a Hall of Fame athlete and coach. My brother and I grew up as athletes. I was a college athlete. Then I got into college coaching while also being a high school teacher. In about 8 years into being an assistant coach at the NCAA Division III level, I got the head job. So I was 29 years old, men's basketball coach, performing to the standard. Well, the scoreboard's probably, as soon as I win these championships real quick at 29 years old, I'll be the Lakers coach in about 2 years, and then fame and fortune will come my way. And obviously life didn't work out that way, but there was a moment about 2 years, 3 years into being a head coach where there was a rash of gender violence incidents and misogynistic social media groups unearthed on the campus I was the head coach at. And it was because I'd been there so long as an athlete, as an assistant, I got a ton of phone calls about, Kip, what is going on this campus that we're seeing sexual assault, we're seeing domestic violence, we're seeing misogynistic Facebook groups describing and rating women's bodies of administrators and athletes on campus. This whole ecosystem of awful. What the hell's going on, man? And all I could say, Paul, and it was really a changing point in my life, all I could say on these phone calls was, well, it's not my guys. My players didn't do it, which was factually accurate, but I knew deep down I'd done nothing different. There was no divergent point in my coaching compared to the coaches whose young men had made these horrible choices. I hadn't done anything different. It was simply the flip of the coin, luck of the draw, that my guys hadn't committed those acts. And maybe that was, due to good parenting and upbringing, but it wasn't anything that I had promised them in my recruiting speech. And I had 10 different states on the roster. at the time, and I knew I'd been in living rooms. I knew I'd been on phone calls. I knew I'd spent time selling moms and dads and young men that if they played for Kip, they would be better men. They'd become better prepared to be husbands, fathers, and members of society. But I knew I wasn't living to that. I was giving cliched recruiting pitches. I was a car salesman. And I knew I hadn't done anything I'd been raised to do because my dad was a transformational coach. My mom was a Montessori school principal for 30 years. So I knew the intrinsic value of education and sports and intermingling of life skills, but I wasn't doing it. I was just, hey, if we win, let's stay humble. If we lose, let's stay resilient, and let's rinse, repeat our practice film room, weight room, and I'll go back to watching film and worrying about ball screen defense. I was scoreboard curriculum driven, and I, for whatever reason, whatever powers that be moved me to walk my butt across campus and ask the gender resources and Title IX coordinator, how do I do this better? I don't want my guys committing these acts. I do not want them doing it. And that was the genesis point. That was so that then 10, fast forward 10 years, and we had created a model 4-year program that our guys were required to do to play for us. We recruited it, we completed it. And by the time we got some national notoriety for that work, mainly, and we can get into this later, through the great performance of my guys as human beings, very little to do with Kip. But I was like, you know what? I can help other coaches do this. I really believe in this. This has refueled me. I don't have trophies. I don't have all these banners to hang up that say that's why I'm a good coach. And I don't need them because I have the evidence of the guys growing as human beings that's refueled me. I can do this for everybody. I can help everybody create framework, create spaces to where we really dive into that. Like you mentioned, the man box, and we can get into the evolution, because I started off as a don't touch, keep your damn hands to yourself guy, and recognize the work is really rooted in how do our guys see themselves as men? What are they performing to prove that masculinity? And if we unpack that, we get a lot of this violence prevention that we all want anyway. But as a coach, I used to start up throwing a bunch of signs up, don't. But if don't one time was all I needed to correct behavior, then we never would have missed free throws, because I said don't miss free throws before, but that didn't equal us not missing free throws, right? We went to work on it. We had to have a practice plan for it. So that's the short version of the genesis of where I am now.
All right. So first, I definitely want to get into the evolution, but can you tell us who your dad is?
Oh, my dad's Kip Ioane. It's Hall of Fame, Montana State Billings. We're a Samoan family. So for my dad, being Polynesian in the snow is one of the most amazing recruiting stories anybody's ever pulled off in the 70s. But he met my mom, Rhonda, in Billings in college, and she's a barrel racing national champion. So my brother and I have quite the the genealogy trees you can go on to, ancestry.com. We got a hell of a one. But that's where he was for 35 years. We actually run his foundation now. That's meant to, continue the work of impacting young people, regardless of the scoreboard, regardless of their grades, impacting the next generation and giving them hope to be more than we were, obviously.
Yeah, wow, that's awesome. So teams of men, talk about the evolution, talk about putting the pieces together. I mean, I love the backstory here, because obviously it's something everyone's heard of. I mean, maybe not, exactly what you're doing. That's why I want you to tell us,
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. So my first inclination was, because I'm an analytics coach. Like, I like analytics. I like the new age flow of where basketball is going, where I can have numbers to support what I believe. So I was like, you know what? These stats that I got from Carly Roner in the Title IX Gender Resources office, I got these stats, and these move me because these stats are awful. These stats scare me for the experience of women on campus, for LGBTQ on campus, for the experience of younger men in spaces with older men. Like, all these stats move me. So let me throw these numbers up and say, guys, look at these. These suck. Don't be this. And then we'll go about our day, which of course is better than nothing. But it also, if you dive into the literature, and as I've done this for over a decade now, you recognize that is at best a one-off, maybe leaving an impression on one or two kids in the room, but it's very easy for young men. And I would have done the same thing in my 30s, right? I would say, oh, that'll never be me. Those horrible numbers about violence, about assault, about rape, those will never be me, coach. And they're right. Statistically, it won't be them. But what you really get into is, how does it end up being any of us that are male identifying that do these things? How do those choices come to be? And then how do the rest of us sit back and co-sign with our silence? So as I started to learn some of these really root causes, right, I stopped trying to treat the symptoms and get to the cause. And the
Mhm.
cause was, who are they trying to be? Who are their role models in manhood? And what lessons were they taught? And that's really where I unearthed and found, which was first coined by a called men and Tony Porter, the man box. And the man box teaches men was from an early age, hey, don't be emotional, don't have emotions, don't have emotional fluency, don't have relationships that are really with anybody unless they can get you somewhere or get you something.
Mhm.
Dominate and conquer everything in your path. Other men, women have a lot of notches on the bedpost, sexual conquest, and judge yourself on your sexual exploits, your money, and your material possessions. And make sure you're the aggressor in all situations. And as guys act towards that, it turns into this precarious manhood, especially in team rooms across the country and male sports across the country, where I've got to keep upping the ante of what I have to do to prove to you I'm so tough and I'm this man. And as we get into that, we start making choices that put us in bad decisions, either for ourselves or others. And so
Mhm.
that's where we really start to focus our work. If we can unpack this man box, we'll get to gender violence prevention. We'll
Mhm.
get to
Mhm.
bullying prevention. We'll get to anti-oppression behaviors. Because if you believe in your superiority because of the genitals, and you probably believe in your superiority because of your skin color. And now we got
Mhm.
the twin sisters of all this awfulness.
Right.
And now we're able to unpack a lot of this. So that was a learning point for me and allowed me to start sequencing information, which is why I
Mhm.
have such a belief system that coaches can and should be doing this work, because coaches are experts at
Mhm.
sequencing install. Like I was just speaking at the Nike Coach of the Year clinic for football coaches in Portland. And football coaches are amazing at sequencing an install of something new. Like it's a new play, a new scheme, a new tactic. They'll tell you right now, we're going to start it on this date. And 2 weeks later, this is what we're going to be able to execute and why. And they've built all the learning points in. They're amazing at it. I just think they can activate that same skill set with stuff that matters even more. And it can
Mhm.
happen right alongside. I think that's the unique viewpoint I bring to this, is because I did it. I did it as an NCAA basketball coach. Now, I wasn't at Duke. I recognize the stresses are different at Duke than at the Division
Mhm.
III level, but the calendar is the same.
Right.
And the
Right.
pull on your time is the same. And your give a damn for your guys is the same. So why not use those same skill sets? And also, coaches can mandate attendance. Like, where
Right.
else in young men's lives is attendance mandated and they show up for it than in team rooms, right? Where
Mhm.
else in young
Mhm.
men's lives do they show up for things, usually expecting to have fun with people they love and a mentor they trust, than in team rooms? And
Right.
where else do they show up every day going, you know what's going to happen at practice today? I'm probably going to be asked to grow. I'm going to be challenged today. And they show up excited for that. I tell coaches all the time, my therapist, I give him a lot of money each month for him to tell me, hey, Kip, go find people you love that challenge you and ask you to grow. That's hard to do in our adult lives, right? But when
Right.
you're a athlete growing up, you get that every day. So
Yeah.
why aren't we using that setting for
Wow.
more than just blitz schemes? Right. And I think you can do it both. That's what I try to tell people. I'm not telling people to swap out their competitiveness. I'm not telling people that success on the field or the court is still, yeah, let's be competitive. Let's drive for
Mhm.
excellency. I think you can do both. I think there's a coach out there that's better at ball screen than me, that
Mhm.
can take what I was good at and go win a national title and infect everybody. Like, hey,
Right.
we won this because we were authentically connected as quality men. That allowed us to be great at ball screen defense. And then, I mean, Paul, coaches are the greatest thieves and the most impressionable people in the world. If the Lakers go run something and win tonight, 50,000 of us will copy that play.
Right.
So I just need somebody to go win football, basketball, baseball championship and attribute it to, you know what, I got really good people in there. And we intentionally tried to work that. That's why we were resilient. That's why we were bonded. All the things
Mhm.
coaches would say anyway. But that's my formula. And we're in the process of trying to affect it across the country.
Hip, I love it because I think that's such a brilliant approach. Knowing your stature as a coach, but also being, that mentor and having that audience of kids who, and young adults who are looking for that mentor to
Yeah.
steer them in the right direction. And you've kind of taken it from not just on the court, but in life as well. So how have kids and how have your athletes responded to, to what you're trying to do here?
Great question. And I think that's a pain point that I hear from coaches, especially at the college level. And I experienced it too. Like, the first time doing this is going to be a shock to their system. Like, what is coach talking about? Where is this? But if you take a look at all the studies, and there's two great ones, especially for your audience, just in general, that aren't just specifically to athletes, but just take the Equimundo study on the state of men in the
Mhm.
in the world. And
Mhm.
it shows there in age 16 to 22, men are desperate for somebody to see them authentically who they are, to feel seen, for guidance. Like there's a pull for a lot of men across the world. I want to be better. I want to be more. I have zero idea how to do this. I don't know the skill
Mhm.
sets. I don't feel like I'm getting the skill sets in traditional education. Where do I go? So really,
Mhm.
guys want this.
Yeah.
They don't have the skill sets to tell you how and when and where. It's on you to onboard it. So my experience has been one in true communication lines. If you're a coach that's talking about players about the dangers of pornography use, and how it's affecting the society in general, it's a lot easier for them after that awkward conversation and open sharing to come talk to you about playing time.
Right.
Right. It's a lot
Right.
easier to bridge the relationship between, because oftentimes coaches, and we need to fix this, we put ourselves up here on this, well, I have an open door policy, but I haven't done any of the relationship building that allows a kid to get past me. I don't want to walk my ass up to coach's office. That's weird.
Mm.
But if we have these other real convos and these real spaces where we exist together, you kind of get over that. And that doesn't mean kids come to the office and we all get along, right? I
Right.
think that's another misconception of the work is it's this toxic positivity and forced rainbows and skies are pink and flowers are growing every. No, we exist in conflict together, but we challenge each other with respect and love each other to the truth. We can get into more things. Like you got to stop shooting that shot. That shot's terrible. But we've
Right.
had conversations above and beyond that. This isn't my first interaction with you. So we're likely to have a better success rate in our sport as
Mhm.
well as, in building some of these communication models. So that's one thing that I think we were able to verify with our players in terms of not just with us, but professors emailing us or reaching back out to us and saying, hey, I don't know what it is you guys do, but your players are able and willing to participate in challenging discussions in this class more so than other men that aren't part of your program. So whatever it is you're doing, coach, keep going, keep doing it,
Yeah.
because that's really the skill sets we're trying to give them, right? Going forward in life. My guys, when I was moved on from my position with my school, every coach, you take your job. 15 years in, they decided to move in a different direction. Not one of my players that I had over 15 years as their head coach texted me, hey, coach, thanks for the 12 points a game. Hey,
Mhm.
coach, remember that
Mhm.
scoreboard that one night in Saturday in Washington? No, all of them texted me, coach, I really loved what you did for me. I still use when you said stress is no diapers and your wife's out of town. Stress isn't tonight's game.
Right.
Like, different anecdotal
Mm.
evidences about life stuff. And that fueled me as much as I wish I could have won a championship before they made a change in decision. I'm fueled that I did it the best I could the way I wanted to.
Yeah.
Right. And so
Yeah.
that's what I think for coaches out there who, Paul, you've heard them. How many speeches do you hear coaches talking about? It's all about relationships.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. Of course.
Let's take you at face value. I believe that. But is your relationship rooted in lecture, mandate, demand? Or
Mhm.
is it rooted
No.
in real things? And this is a
Of
framework
course.
that allows you to root it in real things. And then you can be better when the
Mhm.
lights are on and the scoreboards are on as a byproduct.
Right. Kip, I love it. And, I know you mentioned before that you're a high school teacher now, right? Is that true?
Oh, I did. I spent
Oh,
eight
you were.
years in high
Okay.
school. And I do this full
Okay.
time now. Yeah.
I got you. So from one high school teacher and coach to another, this idea of the building relationships. I mean, I remember walking into the locker room, and there was a sign up that said they never remember what you taught them, but they'll always remember how you treated them. And I mean, that falls right into what you're talking about, and I think it's amazing. I really do.
Yes. No, I thank you for that. Because another version of that is probably from the same person, right? They won't remember what skill you gave them. They'll remember how you made them feel.
Hmm.
And I think
Hmm.
coaches always jump to, well, Kip, I just can't give them what they want. No one's
Yeah.
saying that.
Right.
I
Right.
think honestly, one of my main not pain points, but talking points with coaches is I think you owe every one of these young men that walk in that door every day visibility.
Hmm.
Visibility does not mean you're granting them mobility in their role or their snaps or their minutes or their innings, but you have ICU moments planned in your day. How many coaches, Paul, have you heard say, well, I can't reward every kid. I value every kid, but I can't reward them with minutes. Totally agree. So what is your plan for the ways you are going to? If
Right.
you're running this teams of men framework, you have moments where you can say, yo, Mace, thank you for speaking today on that topic. I haven't heard your voice in a couple months. Thank you. There's an ICU moment, right?
Yeah.
There's different
Yeah.
methodology. We have a lot of the cliches down as coaches, and I was this guy. So I don't want to pretend like I'm preaching from the top. I've been this guy too. We have a lot of the cliches that we can parrot and give out answers, none of which are applicable in 2024 to the young men we're trying to serve.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that because I was going to ask you this. If I had one of, a throwback coach, I don't know, Bobby Knight or, somebody sitting on this podcast with you and I right now, and he's listening
Yep.
to what you're saying. Talk about that difference between what it was
Yes.
and, what it is now with what you're doing and where you want it to be.
Yes, great question. I think, and I've had this, I've been on panels with this debate. And once again, like I said before, I think it's healthy to chase conflict. I think it's healthy to chase debate as long as you keep it respectful. You heard that there's a lot of conversation, and I don't think it's built in any maliciousness or any false nature of safe space. I just prefer, which I learned from Jen Fry, who's a phenomenal DEI advocate across the country. Let's have a courageous space. Let's have a brave space, because we can still have respect for one another in these spaces. But let's make sure we're brave and courageous and driving each other towards better. And I think that's how I would frame it for any of the coaches that want to say, well, I was coached hard, right? Like you mentioned, like I had a Bobby Knight type coach, and look where I am. I succeeded. And I would say that I think you're underselling your own resilience.
Mm-hmm.
I don't,
Mm-hmm.
what if you made it to where you are as a person, as a husband, as a father, as a successful business person, coach, not because of being cussed at and screamed at by a tyrant when you were 15? What if you made it here despite that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that's one of the framings I use. And also, if you take a look at some of the old school methods, a lot of that is rooted in driving people towards better still and accountability. There's just a better methodology to still hold people accountable. We know this. We know frequency. If you take a look at Nick Winkelman's book, The Language of Coaching, I want to give him a lot of credit here. If you take a look at how we get people focused in on attention to task, coaches in the past used the two least effective ways, which was intensity and frequency. I'll say it louder. I'll say it more often. And there's a little bit of efficacy there, but they pale in comparison to novelty and context. Do we do it, say it, perform it in a new space, new way, new language? And do I really prove to you why this matters to you? And that's not because humans are selfish. It's because that's how we focus back in. So I don't want to say that every coach in the past was awful. That's not it. But they were using tools that we've proven and shown are not as effective as new versions.
Right.
So I think this framework is constantly giving kids novelty. This is a new topic. This is a new thing. It's putting me as the coach in a new light, in a new way every time we run one of these sessions, or your assistants or your captains. And as you do the work, they start to want more. They start telling you where to go with curriculum. And secondly, it's always about them. I'm doing this because I care about you, the human. Who you are as a three-point shooter is secondary in our conversation. So now I'm tied in, because all of them are going to be at some point in a romantic, intimate relationship. All of them, hopefully, are going to have opportunities to lead young people, whether it's their own kids or others. All of them are going to have opportunities to interact in social dynamics and need to be emotionally fluent. So I think we dial into the two main ways to drive focus and change. So that's how I would respond to coaches. You didn't get where you are because you got dog cussed. You got here in spite of it. And the things you believe in are still things we believe in Teams of Men. I just have way better tools to get those that don't cost you your humanity. It's funny to me how often coaches tell me, well, Kip, I don't want to be their friend. I don't know why we cut off the best part of ourselves, the part of ourselves that people want to be around. Why do we do it? How is that an effective tool in getting relationships? Do we really want relationships, or do we want yes men? And I don't think any of us want that, right?
That's funny because, and I speak about it a lot on this podcast, but being a teacher for 20 years, going back to when I was sitting on my interview, and telling the whole committee, well, I went to college here. I did A, B, C, and D. That's why, I should get this job. 20 years later, I would sit down and say, you know what? The most important thing you could do with your students is develop relationships. Once you do that, then you can teach them, anything you want. I mean, it's not necessarily easy, but it's a lot easier, right, Kip?
Right. No, that's such a good point. And I think I would have done the same thing. I probably did the same thing in my interview to be the head guy. I probably did a bunch of scheme and drawings and tactics when that is like there's a difference between a tactician and a coach. And we forget sometimes. And I think a lot of us, and I did it, we end up over here is that it's easy to lose yourself in the tactics and the scheme. It's easier over there. As much as you're like, oh, I'm watching film, I'm grinding. It's actually easier than what makes Terrell tick today. What makes Paul more readily available to perform at a high level today? And just like you said, it has to be the relationships we're building. And I think if you're skilled and adept at this, like you are, and so many teachers and coaches really are, if they think about it, you don't cross any inappropriate lines. You don't sacrifice appropriate boundaries. But some of us, we let the boundary dictate that we never even start the work.
Right. Right.
right? And you're right. Every single coach that we could bring on would say, hey, you know when my players play best is when they're free of angst, they're free of stress, they're free of outside distraction. But I don't really have any methodology to help them get there. So
Right.
we're never
Right.
going to get that true competitive greatness phase. And I used to be a guy's like, leave your problems at the gym door. It's
Right.
impossible. I didn't
Right.
leave my problems at the gym door, and I'm the coach.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So what are the methodologies that we're using and teaching and employing and modeling? How about we just model? Start there. Are we modeling healthy relationship skills with the staff or the way we interact with people when they see us? Are we modeling emotional processing, or are we just bleeding out all over our guys every day with our own rage and angst? And I know I've done that too. Right. So I think the kids will appreciate. You can't ask them to grow and embrace growth mindset if they see you don't. So I think none of us want to be hypocrites. I think we all want to be champions of what we purport. So
Right.
this is an easy way to do it.
Couldn't agree more. Love it, Kip. All right, let's just take a quick break to hear from the people who make the Mission Z podcast possible. Sponsors for the Mission Z podcast are Long Island Prevention and Resilience Enrichment Program. Working directly with schools, Long Island Prep has created a 3 pillars of action plan to provide drug abuse prevention education for kids in schools, community awareness and professional development for educators, parents, and professionals in our communities, and new early identification and intervention technology for crisis intervention teams in schools and parents at home. Learn more about Long Island Prep and the 3 pillars of action by visiting our website, www.longislandprep.org, and of course, our Prep Academy for educator professional development and parent workshops. Our new digital courses delve into the ongoing issues our kids are facing today. Teachers can earn credits, or parents can simply take a course to learn how to tackle these issues head on and help their kids along the way. Learn more by going to www.theprepacademy.org today. Pioneer Sports, who want you to stop doing it yourself. They help schools, camps, and municipalities start, run, and grow a successful sports program. You can check them out at playpioneersports.com. And don't forget to check out Long Island Prep's Night of Inspiration at Mulcahy's Pub and Concert Hall on May 23rd. It's going to be a very special night with dinner, entertainment, and some really great guest speakers and honorees. Just go to longislandprep.org for more information and tickets for this amazing event we have planned to celebrate Mental Health Awareness Month this May 23rd. All right, and today's podcast is also brought to you by DDS for Vets, who is bridging the gap that veterans face with services that they are entitled to. Just go to ddsforvets.org for more information. We're here talking with Kip Ioane, founder and lead facilitator for Teams of Men. And Kip, this is a fascinating conversation because I feel like you really did enlighten, some of the people listening to this about how the approach to, to what you're trying to do really doesn't seem like it's out of our hands, right? I mean, it's something we can accomplish and it's just going to help everybody, right?
No, thank you for framing it that way, because I do think that is something I've had to learn to speak to better for coaches and even administrators and parents that hear about, hey, the Teams of Men group's coming in, or we might adopt Teams of Men, is this doesn't require you to have a PhD in gender studies. It doesn't have to require it to have a master's degree in violence prevention. This is 15 to 20 minutes a week to start with, where you're open to embracing curiosity. Curiosity is a superpower. You're open to vulnerability. Vulnerability is a connection point. It's as simple as saying, guys, hey, next week, we're going to share the role models in our life that built us up as men. And you meet kids in their power, like share with me who has really influenced you in a positive way. You're going to get dads, big bros, cousins, grandpas, famous celebrities, and start there. And then we just morph into, hey, what are all those lessons they taught us? A month later, hey, any of those lessons, now that you're 16, now that you're 21, any of those lessons kind of seem like they don't fit you anymore? That's an easy 3-stage thing that took 20 minutes over 3 weeks. So that's part of what we try to do. Is it is actionable. Part of what we can do as a business is we give you conversation prompts. We can give you lesson plan ideas. So as a coach, you don't have to do more time building these. We just deliver it to you, and away you go in the setting that's best for your guys. Some coaches love lunch with their leadership group and they have these combos. Some coaches want whole team meetings after film. It's up to, we still want to
Yeah.
give coach their agency because it is their program. And let's not forget, Paul, like I could be the best speaker that's ever come into that team. And a day later, they don't remember who I was or what I said. But the
Right.
person they trust and listen to, the coach is there every day. So can I build that coach's skill set and their confidence that, coach, you can do this. I'll give you
Right.
all the materials and go stand in your power as their mentor and watch the transformation.
Yeah. So you mentioned the word team. So talk to me about your team, right? At what you're doing and how you're doing it. Who do
Yeah.
you want in with you? And I can imagine you probably build good relationships with them before they go out and do their work, right, Kip?
And that's where I'm trying to get to, Paul, is as we grow the business and I need it to be less about Kip in person, always Kip front facing, and more with, and we're actually running an active agent summer here, active agent summit here in 2 months, where all of our current partner coaches that are either founding members and have our membership plan, or they had us in or used our curriculum this year, are meeting because I want to activate the people that are on the front lines. Like, coach, what did
Right.
you do this year with teams and men stuff? I know what I gave you A through D. How'd you
Mhm.
make it yours? How could you help the other people here? I think
Mhm.
that's part of our first explosion of the team is all these coaches are fluent now and have probably solved it in ways that I never even considered because I didn't have a football team. Well, I've got 5 partner active coaches that are football coaches, college or
Wow.
basketball or college or high school that are doing it. And really one of the areas that we're lucky is we have some middle school coaches and some middle school teams. Because I mean, you and I both know some of this stuff we're trying to take out and not
Starts
take
there.
root is happening
Right.
in 5th, 6th grade. So I'm
Absolutely.
really
Yep.
excited for those voices to, hey, Coach Kip did these things, but then in our sessions when it was just us, here's what we did. So that's my first growth model for my team is my members and my active coaches helping each other be even better next year. And
Right.
then eventually, obviously, as we grow and we get to the point where we can have, I mean, I feel like I trained over the last 10 years my best possible employees and facilitators and my players that are out there in the world doing great things. But that's the vision. Currently right now, it's you're either interacting with us through me in-person presentations or through our curriculum shares to you, either through the membership
Mhm.
model or other purchases. I mean,
Right.
really though, Paul, this is so simple. The power of a t-shirt. Like every coach believes in this, or they wouldn't spend thousands of dollars every year on their team swag, right? Like they want
Mhm.
all their
Mhm.
kids and whatever the hashtag is for that season. We've got 7 different ones of those. So if you're a coach and you wear curiosity as a superpower to stretching lines, one of those kids doing high knees is going to say, Coach, what the hell does that mean? And now you got a conversation you never would have had before,
Right.
right? Just wear it to
Yep.
class. If you wore a shirt, a slogan that you believed in, the kids hadn't heard, you'd get 5 of those a period. Like, what's that? What
Right.
does that mean? Right. And now
Right.
we're embracing curiosity and we're just
Right.
sharing. Maybe the kids
Yeah.
agree, maybe they don't, but you never would have talked about that topic
No.
without wearing that shirt. So that's another way people are showing up as part of our team. Like, Kip, I'm not ready yet for like in-person session but let me get 2 of those shirts and
Right.
I'll report back what the kids say because I do like that. To feel is to fuel. I like that. Let me wear it. So
Love it, Kip. And you are really speaking my language. I was an alternative school teacher, let's say about 10 years ago, and there was a young lady in our district who took her own life from being bullied. And
oh
that group of kids really was, hit hard by it. And after we had gone through the initial trauma, and then we started to talk about it, I had them write about it. They wanted to make T-shirts, and they wanted to come up with a slogan that I think it was "Be the Difference" or something about anti-bullying.
yeah.
But you know what? It unified them. It gave them a message, and it helped them through trauma. So it's like it's beautiful,
So
Kip. It
good.
really is. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's such a good thank you for sharing that because the kids often people ask me, Kip, how do you keep refreshing the ideas and how do you have I
Right.
said, I can give you a framework for 3 months, 1 month. The kids will take you places I couldn't have thought of or you couldn't have thought of.
Right.
If you do this correctly, you'll have a lesson, just like in teaching, you'll have a lesson plan. But if it really is great, you evolve from I mandated and lectured the whole thing to I
Mhm.
sat back and watched learning. I
Right.
witnessed
I
them embrace it, right? And I mean,
love
I
it.
think you want
Yeah.
to do that as a parent, right?
Right.
You start
Right.
off making sure they don't kill themselves on the toilet falling down, but
Right.
eventually you got to sit back and say
Do your
it's
thing.
their show,
Yeah. Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
So
I
no,
love
thank
it.
you for naming that story because the kids do, and the courage it takes to wear a t-shirt with something on it, because in
Yeah.
today's day and age in those hallways, for them to stand in that power is awesome, and the modeling you do when you wear something Coach, that's weird. People make fun of you today. Nah, man, and I believe in this enough, it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So
Awesome, man. That's just so great. So how can this young generation of talk about the leverage, that they can have really to, to take these platforms and as influencers,
yeah,
I guess, right? To
that's such
combat
thank
this and yeah.
yes.
Yep.
And that's
Go
the
ahead.
theory, right? Because I think and we could argue, we probably a whole nother podcast. If rightly or wrongly, male athletes get a platform, they get seen as influencers, right? Whether they've earned
Mhm.
it or not is a whole
Right.
nother debate. But I tell coaches all the time, my D3 basketball players could walk into an elementary school in Salem, Oregon, and as long as they had a swoosh and a basketball on there, little third graders looking up at them like they're Damian Lillard.
No
And they're going
doubt.
to hang on their every word. So are we preparing our young men to take those platforms to further positivity and change and hope and belief in better? Or are they going to take those platforms and maybe perpetuate harm?
Right.
And so I think you're exactly right. The theory of this is the young people will, after you have to embrace silence and learn that people take longer to process. I had to learn that just because I like talking and reacting. If I say something or I ask them to reflect on their dad's lessons and they're quiet for 10 minutes, Kip, they're not bored. They're really thinking about something for the first time. But
Mm-hmm.
eventually you'll see young people will show you, coach, I want to be forward facing in this. I want to give this presentation to a middle school. I want to give this to the high school I came from if you're in college. Or there's other guys like, where I see myself in the social justice wheel? Coach, I'm really good at the visuals. Like I can
Mm-hmm.
make the visuals, I can make the slogans, I can make the signs. That's where I want to be. Or
Right.
coach, hey, I want to coordinate everything. They start to find their role in it, which is part of life anyway. Not all of us have to
Absolutely.
be public speakers.
Right.
Sometimes the
Right.
public
Of
speakers need the support system behind them or they never would have made it to the microphone.
course.
Right. So I think that part of it has fueled me to, if they're going to get this platform, the least we can do as coaches is prepare them for that moment, whatever it looks like
Yep.
for them,
Yep.
that they're versed in some. There's going to come a moment in their relationship. There's going to come a moment
Mhm.
in their fatherhood where something may have stuck. There may have been an impression that
Right.
they have created. I tell parents that are part of this, I write the letter to let them know they're working with our programs and our partner coaches. Like, hey, the goal of this is when he's 22, 23 years old in Las Vegas at a bachelor party, all of us sleep fine because his
Right.
decision-making paradigm we trust. Not because he's using yours and not because he's using ours. He's created his own and
Mm-hmm.
we can trust it. And that's not an easy thing to do. I shudder sometimes when my 16-year-old drives away for who knows what's happening. But I have to believe and trust in the decision-making paradigms we've tried to help him craft, not that he's
Mm-hmm.
got mine. And then
Right.
I tell coaches that all the time. Do you have seasonal character or values-aligned behavior? Because seasonal character means I follow your rules, coach, because I want to play on Friday night.
Right.
Values-aligned behavior is I do what I do because I believe and that's who I should be as a person. And
Yep.
those are two different things.
Wow.
And so,
Wow.
that's the goal, right? And like
Love it.
hopefully everybody listening, this is not me saying I was the perfect model of all of this. A lot of this,
Mhm.
my guys learned from my failures, right? I just happen to be willing to share more of my BS, right? And that's from my wife telling me to, are you going out there telling them to be you? She would laugh hysterically if she thought I was doing that, right?
Yeah, that's great. And Kip, Teams of Men was kind of born in this shift of mindset. I think there's a whole general, and it's going in the right direction. I hope. There's a lot going on
Yeah.
in this country where we need a whole lot of shift of mindset, right? So
Yeah.
I'm going to give you one
Yeah.
more here. And I loved having you on. This was a great conversation. I love what you're doing. So tell us, as you go forward here, things are going to change again and things are going to change again. But, team of, we want you guys to be a part of that change. So how are you going to
Yeah.
adapt to, things coming up in the future? I know we can't predict it, but,
Yeah.
listen,
No,
we
great
need,
call.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that I don't know if you've read this book by Adam Grant, Think Again. Have you heard this? Which
I,
is
I, I've,
really just
I've, yeah, go ahead. Go
yeah.
ahead. Yep,
That's
yep.
part of like personally and philosophically, if I can continue to embrace my own slogans, I think
Right.
curiosity is a superpower. It keeps you humble. It keeps
Mhm.
you hungry to keep searching. I mean, because oftentimes really a great question is more powerful than a good answer
Right.
because a good answer stops you. Even if it's right, it stops
Yep.
your journey. And a great
Mhm.
question will take you farther and interacting with people that know better. And I think that's one of the things that I hope I continue to invest in is staying curious because there's so much to learn, even in what I'm
Yeah.
doing. Like something that I might be preaching or a model or a best practices from 2020 By the time we get to next year, there might be somebody that's pushed that envelope. And what I find, Paul, in all this is it's humbling for me is a lot of the times I'm standing on shoulders of women who have done this gender violence prevention work in silence and in anonymity. And my
Mhm.
job is to not be like, I'm gonna stand on their shoulders and pretend I did all this. No, no, no.
Mhm.
Can I keep platforming the great ideas and the great people that
Right.
I'm able. One of the things that I've found is I'm getting access to teams, college campuses, high school places that never spoke to the Gender Advocacy Resource Center on campus, that never gave the
Mhm.
time of day to the Title IX people on campus. And I've got to recognize and use my privilege to stand up for them. Like, hey,
Yeah.
I know you trust me because I'm a cisgendered heterosexual college basketball coach. So that's how I got in here today. But do you know that these 5 women across the street are working their ass off daily to provide you access to safe sex supplies, for training, for consent, for advocacy? And
Mhm.
that's a responsibility I have to take seriously. It's just because I get to be in places doesn't mean that I broke the wall down. Sometimes I'm the
Yeah.
benefit of some of the walls being broken down. So that's part of the
Wow.
way. Part of me wonders, as I don't have a team for the first time this year, right? So
Mhm.
what am I losing not having my own guys to work some of this stuff out in? So is there a path back to coaching and doing this is a question for me, but I think staying curious, staying humble,
Yeah.
um,
And
but also
I
there's
guess,
so
I'm sorry, just, staying
no,
forward
go ahead.
looking. You're right.
Yes.
We have to stay forward looking. It's so important, right, Kip?
Yes, and there's so many experts. There's so many people that have done this work. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, Mark Green at Remaking Manhood, Professor Michael Flood. These guys are putting out content every single day. Calderman, Tony Porter, Ted Bunch, every single day. That if I read it and digest it with the idea that I can frame it for coaches, that'll keep me learning.
Right.
Right. So, I think those are kind of my tactics right now. As a coach, I don't have games to get ready for, so I can get ready for these mini games in this way. I can
Right.
put some of that drive this way.
Good. Keep, you know what? Keep doing it because I love your organization. I love your message. I love what you're trying to get accomplished here with Teams of Men. So tell us how we can reach you. You have, social media, you have a website.
Yep,
Tell us about it.
absolutely. Thank you, sir. Our number one that we're probably most active on, even though I sometimes reassess, should I still be on there every day, is Twitter/X at
Right.
teams_men. Also, our website, teamsofmenllc.com, will take you through our origin story, but also the sub page on there, how we help. I think is a great landing place because you can I try to make it a buffet because some coaches, I want to meet you where you are. Some of them are
Mhm.
doing great character development work. They just need some new materials. So they don't need
Mhm.
Kip to come in. They just
Mhm.
need a couple new materials that we got. Other coaches are like, can you start this? And I can be the launch spot. So those are probably the 2 main way. For daily quick hits, our YouTube channel has been growing great. And we try to put a lot of coach use this lesson plan today. Coach use this prompt today. And that's just at Teams of Men on YouTube. So those are probably the 3 easiest ways to get direct interaction with us every day.
Okay, Kip Ioane, Teams of Men, thank you so much, sir, and keep up the great work. And we will be in touch. I will let you know how we can get, as much of your message out as possible because I just think it's great. Kip, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Paul.
All right, my pleasure. All right, and today's podcast is brought to you by DDS for Vets, who is bridging the gap that veterans face with services they are entitled to. Just go to ddsforvets.org for more information. And stay tuned for the next Mission Z podcast. Go to missionzpodcast.com. Smash that subscribe button. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time, everybody. Thank you. Sponsors for the Mission Z podcast are Long Island Prevention and Resilience Enrichment Program. Working directly with schools, Long Island Prep has created a 3 pillars of action plan to provide drug abuse prevention education for kids in schools, community awareness and professional development for educators, parents, and professionals in our communities, and new early identification and intervention technology for crisis intervention teams in schools and parents at home. Learn more about Long Island Prep and the 3 pillars of action by visiting our website, www.longislandprep.org, and of course, our Prep Academy for educator professional development and parent workshops. Our new digital courses delve into the ongoing issues our kids are facing today. Teachers can earn credits, or parents can simply take a course to learn how to tackle these issues head on and help their kids along the way. Learn more by going to www.theprepacademy.org today. Pioneer Sports, who want you to stop doing it yourself. They help schools, camps and municipalities start, run, and grow a successful sports program. You can check them out at playpioneersports.com.